you're going after like a traditional contract, I would stress that you find a way to learn how to position yourself in the market, because it's one thing to write a book and it's a completely different thing to sell it. You have to know like
Yes.
comparable titles. You have to understand how to frame your book in a way that entices and makes it persuasive to an agent or an editor to press. And that is a different skill. That's copywriting. So
Mm.
I've got my three, I think, but that third one is optional because I know everybody has different goals for what kind of story they want to tell and if they want to sell it or not.
Right. I'm writing it all down. New episode. We have brand new author on who we're about to meet. I want you all to meet this amazing author is doing great things. They just released a new book that they're going to tell you about. And they're also going to talk about the whole process to becoming an author and an entrepreneur. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring to the stage Karen Parker. Hello.
Hey, everybody. So nice to meet y'all. Thank you so much, Rhonda, again, for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. And you're way out in California. It's still daylight where you are.
I am. So afternoon, evening, daylight, whatever time zone you're in. Happy to be here.
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, what part of California are you in? Remind me.
Oh yeah, I'm in LA.
Oh,
So we're
okay,
getting that
so
heat
you're in
wave
the
right
big
now.
city.
But yeah, we're getting that heat wave, but we're staying cool.
Awesome. So well, let's just jump right into it. First, tell everybody, who is Karen Parker?
Absolutely. So I'm Karen A. Parker. I'm a Black, queer, non binary author, book coach, and entrepreneur. I specialize in speculative fiction, and I recently graduated with my MFA from UC Riverside Palm Desert, where I studied, thank you so much. I studied the African speculative literary diaspora, and my thesis, my actual creative thesis, is a POC coded epic fantasy novel with some African influence. And I really talked about African oral storytelling traditions for my graduate lecture as well. So that's kind of my interest. My book, The Art of Capturing Phantoms Definitive Edition, came out 2 years ago, so it's still new. I'd like to say, but this is my short story collection of fantasy short stories, sci-fi stories, literary stories, and basically I tell people it's like my sketchbook. And also at all these conferences that people go to where they go to their favorite author, they always ask the author, how do you get your ideas? And I'm like, well, here are all my ideas. Here's how I got them. Because in the book, I talk about all of the inspirations and the footnotes and some of the changes that I made, because I did publish this back in 2018 as a PDF, but
Okay.
I've since brushed it up, edited the stories with some of the knowledge that I gained, and decided to put it as a physical book. So yeah.
So that's actually what I was going to ask about.
Sorry, I saw Sam in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
I saw Sam in the chat in
oh, you saw Sam in the chat. Okay, right there.
Good to have you. Sorry about that.
Wow, there is I did not know that there was an LGBTQ Editors Association.
Yes, I'm a part of the LGBTQ Editors Association. It just opened up, and I'm a mentor and a mentee in the Editors Association, and it's such a huge welcoming community for LGBTQ editors who want to level up, who want to get together, and Sam is a part of that organization as well, doing great things.
Oh, that, you know what though? I think that's awesome that for any group that there is an editors association. Because I remember when I used to teach journalism at the Defense Information School here in Maryland. Sometimes we instructors would sit around the table and we'd be correcting our students' papers. And then there were times when we would really get into a deep discussion about how something should be written. So imagine you all doing that same thing.
Yeah, where we talk about like the finer points of editing and just how to level up in the business. And as Sam says, we have 300 plus members, so I'm part of that nice 300.
Well, 300 plus members is amazing, though.
Yeah, no, it's growing. It's growing really good.
I have to ask you. I have to stop you just for a quick second because since I can imagine what a sensitivity editor would do. But can you talk a little bit more about how that works?
Sure. Yeah. For your audience that might not be familiar. Yes. So a sensitivity reader is an editor that primarily looks at like maybe problematic content or content that might be offensive and looks to maybe change it or present it in a more I don't want to say palatable way, but just like bring issues to attention that maybe could be worked on in a manuscript. So for example, maybe you have a certain character that has a certain viewpoint and that might be offensive to your readership. A sensitivity reader would go in and say, I see this language here that might be offensive to this group of people. Maybe we could reword it or unpack it or see how it fits into the story at large. So that's what I primarily do as a sensitivity reader, and kind of take a holistic look at stories like that.
That's interesting because I think that sometimes people will write certain things either for shock value or they might say, well, this is who my character is. Let's say, I mean, one thing that might just really pop out is race relations. And if you have somebody black or white who has very strong feelings about race and about gender and so forth, how do you balance illustrating who that character is and being sensitive to the reader?
Yeah, that is a question that sensitivity readers grapple with all of the time. And for me, it's always just, well, what is the story trying to say? What are you trying to say thematically, politically, and what that message is? Because I actually read a horror novel that had a very like racist character, but the main arc of the story that he kind of went through had him change that perspective. And also, like, I just knew from the descriptions that the author had that this is just who he was as a character. And the author of that book also put in an author's note and said, like, this character's views are not my views personally. And so there's that establishing of distance. There's that establishing of respect. And again, looking at it holistically, because there is always going to be that tug between art and politics for sure.
Absolutely. I always wonder because speculative fiction it's growing in popularity, but often when we look at, especially when we look at authors of color, speculative fiction isn't usually the first thing that pops in our minds. What was it that attracted you to that?
Yeah, and speculative fiction is a term that I had to recently acquire because for the most part, growing up, I read fantasy novels. I read your standard Harry Potter, and I fell in love with Artemis Fowl by Owen Colfer. I was watching a lot of anime growing up, and just being in that sort of like fantasy pop culture realm, and also really being attracted to anime and manga and like Japanese storytelling in general. So Sailor Moon, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! And so this is just me being like the kid that I've always been in a way, but I get to do it in a literary sense. And I have thought of being like a screenwriter, but I did screenwriting for a few quarters at UC Riverside Palm Desert. I'm like, that's going to be on the back burner for a while. I need to master the novel first and the fiction side first.
Well, it sounds like you take a very measured approach to anything that you do in the literary world. So, just in how you chose the genre that you prefer to write in, just your process of becoming a writer in the first place, and even how you started your MFA program. It was all pretty measured and planned.
Yeah, I'm in that way. I think of myself sometimes like an outlier because most of the writing friends that I talk to, or most of the people I just talk to in general, they don't know what they want to be in like 10, 15, 20 years or something. But I was very like from high school, I wanted to be in an MFA program, like looking at the best colleges in California or elsewhere and seeing what program would help me become the next Owen Colfer. But yeah, that was a dream that I had, and now that dream is fulfilled. And yeah, it has been measured. It has been a journey for sure.
So I think we were talking about your MFA program.
Yes. So right now I'm trying to get my MFA thesis into a working novel. And so typically in an MFA program, you spend 2 to 3 years working with professors and your students and getting feedback on your craft and just developing those skills. And what you usually turn in is a combination or mix thereof of a graduate lecture and a creative thesis. Usually in a master's program, it's like a more like research paper, but sometimes in an MFA program, or most of the time in an MFA program for fiction, you submit a thesis. And so the first 120 pages of the novel that I'm working on is an early draft of what I'm working on. So the nice thing about that is that my novel has been academically vetted and approved.
There you go. It's almost like having your own Kirkus review.
Honestly, honestly, I can ask my professors for a blurb, but they're probably too busy, so I won't bother them.
So could you effectively, let's say, because I have a book that I'm going to start writing very soon. And I want to make sure that this is going to be a huge undertaking, this specific book, because a lot of books I can just write because, it's contemporary fiction, but this one is going to be historical fiction, and I want to hit on a lot of different points. And so when I get ready to write, I'm going to be deep diving on this one. So would you effectively say, like, not saying that everybody has to take an MFA program when they're doing a huge undertaking, but is it a good idea if you to already kind of have a book in mind when you start a program like this?
I would say yes, it is a good idea to have a book in mind, but you don't have to. Some of the programs you can kind of just jump in and you figure out your thesis process or thesis project, I should say, as you go. But for me, it was really helpful to be like, I want to work on this novel. I want to focus on these topics, and it's also, if you're going into an MFA program of any kind, to find the people that support you in your endeavors, to find professors that are interested in the same things that you are and write the same things that you do. And so, again, just plugging my Palm Desert program over here, it was such a treat to have, Stephen Graham Jones and Gavino Iglesias as professors like that.
Wow.
That just, yeah,
so,
that was really awesome.
You're learning from the very best.
Oh yeah, from the very best. Just I could gush about this program all day.
I'm gonna let everybody have their night back. But
thank y'all so much for coming.
Yes, thank you for coming. Thank you, Karen, for a great conversation. I hope everybody who was watching got something out of this. In fact, we got a couple of comments from people who don't really comment a lot.
Yeah, good to see my people here. Good to see you all here.
Karen, best wishes in everything that you do. I will definitely be supporting the book. Thank you, Sam, for sticking with us and rolling with us for the last 50 minutes. We appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. And just a reminder, KarenAParker.com/merch. First 10 people get a signed copy and that nice postcard.
Absolutely. And let me put your website back up. Daniel, if you can find Karen's website so we can remind everybody where they need to go to order the book.
Yeah, that was KarenAParker.com/merch.
Oh, so while we're looking for it, Sarah Phillips said really interesting topics and advice. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my girl, Sarah. That's my BF.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. And here's your website, KarenAParker.
Yes, thank you so much.
/merch. I'm just saying slash. I told you I never know back up front.
Yeah, most of the time is // in the URL, so you're good.
There you go.